In this lecture, we'll talk about web graphics. First, talk about image formats, then the image tag, then we'll talk about background images, then favorites icon, and then list markers. The image format determines how we save an image onto the hard drive. What that really means is how we turn all the ones or all the different colors and pixels that we see in an image, and how we turn them into ones and zeros that computers deal with and save them onto the hard drive. Now, most image formats also apply compression, which makes the file or the image file smaller on the hard drive. And smaller means that it doesn't take as much space on your hard drive, and also it transfers that file over the network faster. I'm sure everyone has an experience of when they visited a website and the pictures took a while to download. So if you compress the pictures more and the files more, then you can download them faster. So the most common image formats that we use on websites are JPEG, GIF, and PNG. And all three of these image formats take advantage of compression. Now there's two types of compression. There's lossless compression, meaning that when you compress it and you save it, and then you uncompress it so that you can view it on your monitor. With lossless compression, all the detail is all still there. What you see is the original image before it got compressed. With lossy compression, as you save the image and compress it down, you lose some detail in the picture, and then when you open it back up then and view it, some of the detail might be missing. Now, if you've done it right, the detail that's missing is the detail that the eye can't notice anyway. So, and then the next information that might be lost or detail out of the picture would be stuff that was really hard to notice, or stuff that you wouldn't really pay attention to. And so that's lossy compression, meaning that you lose information, and lossless compression means you don't lose any information as you compress and uncompress your files. So as I said before, all these image formats that we use on the web take advantage of compression to make our files smaller so they can transfer over the network faster. Now JPEG is our first type of compression, and this is really good for compressing real-life photographs. In fact, most cameras will save their pictures in the JPEG format. So right when you pull the picture off, it's already compressed and saved in a JPEG format. The next format is a GIF, and GIFs are really good with cartoon-like pictures up here. And what I mean by cartoon-like pictures is they've been drawn, they're not a real-life photograph, they don't have a lot of different colors in it. As you can tell, there's probably 5 or 6 different colors, as you have some different shades of blue up here in this GIF right there, but not nearly as many different colors as you see in a JPEG picture. And in fact, if you were to try to save a JPEG picture as a GIF, it would be a pretty big file because you couldn't compress, the GIF wouldn't compress a JPEG picture really well. GIFs are also can be animated. There are animated GIFs, so if you ever see a picture that looks kind of like a video that kind of moves or changes, that's an animated GIF. The GIF image format uses lossless compression, meaning when you save it and you open it back up, you'll see the original image. There won't be any detail lost. Whereas the JPEG image format does use lossy compression, meaning when you save it and you open it back up, some of the detail will be gone. Now, depending on how much you compress the picture, hopefully if you didn't compress it that much, then hopefully the details that's lost will not be noticeable. But if you do reduce the quality when you save it, it'll produce a smaller file, but when you open it back up, some of the detail will be gone. The third image format that we use a lot on the web is PNG. And PNG is replacing the GIF image format. It has a main advantage that it allows for more colors than the GIF image format. So if you want to put pictures on your web page, you have 3 options to get those pictures. One option is to take a digital camera and take pictures of things, and you can put those pictures on your web page. You might want to make sure, if they're like pictures of your house or something, that you have the GPS location turned off for any digital cameras that have a GPS inside of them. Another option to get pictures on your web page is to draw them yourself. So you can use photo editing software, and we'll talk about that shortly. And the third option is to search for images that are freely available on the web. Now, most images on the web you cannot use. You cannot download them and save them and then put them on your website without permission of the person that owns them. And that's illegal in most countries, and if it's not illegal in your country, then it is unethical. So please don't steal images off of people's web pages without their permission. The third, but we can, there are free images available on the web, and we can use an image search engine. I'm using Google Images, but other search engines have options to search for pictures as well. And since we're in Hawaii, I'm going to search for big waves. And maybe surfing big waves right here. Now, most of these pictures are probably copyrighted, so I can't steal them. So what I'll do is I'll go to my advanced search right here, and I'll go down to the usage rights right here. So there are several usage rights. This means that I can use or share this, but I can't make money off of it. I can use or share this and make money off of it with this option. Here I can use or share or modify. That means I can change the image itself. Now, I do believe that if you're just going to change the size of your image, you could still use the free to use or share. But if you're going to actually add things into the picture or take things out, then you need to use this modify option right here. So I'll use free to use or share because I'm not going to make any money off of this web page that I'm creating. And so now I have this picture right here of this guy surfing this wave, and I'll go ahead and save this image on my in the same folder that I have my web page. See, I have this images.html page. I'm just going to save it in the same folder, and I'm going to call this big wave. Now, do make sure you don't put any spaces in here, and also I use all lowercase. That way I don't get confused, and it is case sensitive when I go to put it on my web page. So if I use a capital B and forget to use a capital B on my web page, it won't work. So I'll go ahead and save this on my computer right there. Now, there are other sites that you can use to find pictures. There's Flickr.com, and you can just go there and try to find free images there. Another place is Wikipedia. And usually I search for Wikipedia Commons, and this has images and media that are free to use on your web page right here. So if you do search with Google Images, it might find these pictures right here. You could go ahead and search for images right here on Wikipedia Commons as well. Now, if you're going to draw images, you can use photo editing software, and my number one choice would be Adobe Photoshop or Adobe Elements or something like that. However, that software is pretty pricey. There is a free version or a free photo editing software called GIMP, G-I-M-P, and there is also a free image editor online called pixlr.com. So look in the lecture notes for links to this and other photo editing options. So we can go to Pixlr Editor Express, and I won't do much of a demo here, but you can just play around with this and try to draw pictures. Don't worry about breaking anything. You can just grab a pencil and start drawing and stuff like that, and make your own images. And this, if you want to save them, since you're drawing them yourself, you probably want to save them in the PNG format. Now here's my images.html file right here, and as you can see, I just have the head section, the body, I have the header, the footer, and my navigation as well. So right in here is where my main content should go, and I'll just save this and load this into a browser right here, and I can see that I have my images right here and my navigation link. So let's go ahead and put in an image into this page, and you put in an image with the image tag, that's IMG, which is short for image, and then you put SRC, which stands for source. So where does this image come from? Now we could link to images on other sites, so we could start it off with http://. This follows the same pattern that we use for anchor tags and following links, and the same pattern that you used for including CSS into your web page. So since I saved that image in the same folder that I saved this file in, I could just type the name of the image. So it's bigwave.jpg. Now sometimes there's an E in this as well, and sometimes it's just JPG, but it does make a difference. Make sure the extension is the same as the file you saved, and make sure that it is case sensitive, so this has to be the exact name of the file right there. So we can do that. And we'll load this up, and we can see that we have this picture right here, this guy surfing a big wave. Now, one other thing that you have to include in this image tag is an alternate. Some people are blind and they cannot see the images, so we should put a description of these images in here. And they use a special browser that will read text to them, but it can't describe an image, but you can put the description of the image in here. And if you do not put an alt tag in, then it will not pass validation. Also, if the image cannot get displayed, this is, for some reason, if the network wasn't able to download it or if it wasn't able to find it, it'll put this alternate text in there for right here. So I could just say person surfing a big wave. And it won't change anything here, but now this will be valid HTML. And if I happen to misspell the name of this file, well, the image won't load, but we will get the alternate text right there. So now we see the person surfing a big wave. And so the alternate text is important. And a couple other options that we have here, now I have the image back, is we can also add a height and a width. I'll add a width first. So maybe I'll just do 100, and this is how many pixels wide we want our image. So we can have it be 100 pixels wide, and that makes the image smaller. And if you notice, the height automatically adjusted, so it kept the aspect ratio, so it didn't distort this image at all. We can add in a height as well. Let's see, 200 pixels right here. And when you add in a width and a height, you can definitely distort this image. So now I made this big wave look a lot bigger, and this guy's really stretched out as well. So you usually only want to include one, either a width or a height. You probably don't want to include both, but if you do just include a height, then the width will automatically adjust to the height that you want it to. Now this is one way to adjust the size of your image. However, if you have a really big image, you do need to know that it will take a long time for that image to download. So if you have a really big image, but you're only going to make it this big in the web page, then you'll want to pull up a photo editor, and then you can open an image right here, and I'll just select that big wave image that I have. It'll load it up in here, and then I can go to the image and adjust the image size and make it the size that I want it to. So if I only want it to be 200 pixels wide, and notice I constrain the portions right there, then it will adjust the image, and then I can go ahead and save this, and it will download it back to my computer. And I can save it as a different name if I want to. And now I have a big wave SM on my computer in the same folder, and now I don't need to change the height or the width of this because I edited my picture to be the right size. So it's really important for you to edit your pictures and make them the right size, especially if you're taking them off of a camera. They're usually really high quality images with large file sizes, and if you're only going to make a picture this size, then you probably want to use photo editing software to shrink that picture down. And one thing that you might want to do with images is make them a link. Sometimes you can have images that look like buttons that people can press on, and you want people to be able to click on them and have them do something. Other times you might have a small picture right here, and if the user wants to see the bigger image, you might want to link to that bigger image. So I'll do that right here. So to make an image a link, you just surround it with an anchor tag. Remember the anchor tag before, the stuff that went in between was the text that became the link. But if you put an image in between, then this will be an image that becomes a link. And so for this, I'm just going to link to the image, the bigger image that we had before we edited it and made it small. So right here is the small one, and if they want to see a bigger image, then they can link to that. Now notice this doesn't link to a web page like we have done in the past. It links to an actual picture, but that's okay. We'll just have it linked to the actual picture, and we'll then when they click on it, they'll be able to see the picture in their web browser right here, and which would be a higher quality picture for them. So that's how we can turn images into links. Now I'll talk about background images, and background images are pictures that can go behind words and text. Usually you don't use real life pictures for background images, but if you want a texturized background or something like that, that's when you use a background image. So I have found this image, this background image right here. It kind of looks like a canvas type image right here. It has a little bit of texture, and I wanted this to be the background of my web page. Instead of a completely white web page, I want to use that. So to do that, I'm going to need to do some CSS. Now for this video, I'm going to do embedded CSS, just so that you can see the HTML and the CSS at the same time. But you should use an external style sheet and link it in, as you saw in the previous video. So this is just for demonstration purposes. Make sure you put all of your CSS in an external style sheet, especially for your projects. So to do this, I'm doing it embedded, but since I want it to be the background of the entire web page, I'm going to put it on the body tag. So I'm going to select the body tag out right here, and then inside of it I can use the background image property, then just put a URL and then 2 parentheses right here to contain the URL. And it works the same way as we have done in hrefs and sources right here. So you just do the URL based off of where you are. So since I have this background image saved in the same directory as I have my image.html file, then I can just put the name of the image right here, and it's bground.jpg, just like that. And so if I get my link name right, then I refresh, and I should be able to see this background image right here. As you can tell, it was a little tiny image, but you can see that it's getting repeated over and over again. In fact, you can kind of see these vertical lines right here where it's getting repeated. So it tiles these images across your web page, so no matter how big you make your web browser, the background image will keep going and going. So if I don't want that to happen, I can do a couple of things. I can use the background repeat property and say no repeat, like that. And then I just get the one little image that I have right here. Now I might want the image to repeat horizontally but not vertically, so another thing I could do is have it repeat in the X direction, and so then it will repeat horizontally, but it won't repeat vertically. And I can also do the repeat Y direction right here, and then it repeats vertically but not horizontally. So those are different repeats that we have, and if you want it to repeat both horizontally and vertically, you can revert back to the default. I don't have to put this in because this is the default, but when I do put it in, then it will repeat both ways. So that's how we can get background images to repeat. Now sometimes if the background image gets corrupted or it's not able to download, or we have the wrong file name for some reason, as we can tell, we don't see any background image at all. Now if we have a really dark background image and our text is white so that we get a high contrast, then all of our text would disappear. So to protect against it, it's a smart idea to also set a background color as well. It's close to the same color as the image. So this is a color that's close to the same color as this background image right here. And so if the image doesn't load, we still get that background color. But if we fix the image and it starts working again, then we'll see the background image instead. So this is a backup in case this image is not able to load for any reason. Or some people might disable images completely and then they won't be able to read your text. So it's a smart idea to set a background color to the approximate color of your background image. That way you still get the same contrast that you planned on your web page. So another thing that we can do is get a background image that looks like this. And this is to be able to add columns to your web page. So if I have this background image and I repeat it vertically, then I'll get a nice sidebar column on both sides of my web page with a white background in between. And if you notice, this image is about the same size as my web page right here. So when you go to edit or create one of these background images, that's what you want to set it up as. And then we can just add that in, and I save this picture, this image in the same folder that I did as my images .html file. So this should just load. And when I do that, then I get my two sidebar columns the way that I want it to. Now you do have to be careful because you might have planned your web page to be a certain width, but if people have a bigger display and they drag out their browser like this, then it'll do something like this. So now it's repeating both horizontally and vertically, and that might not be the effect that you want. So you might want to do your repeat so it only repeats vertically, and when you do that, then it stops. Now this might look a little weird as your web page right here, so you might want to get this thing centered and set a background color or something like that. But it still could have a nice effect if you center this and then you have some different background color on the sides, as long as it's centered. And we'll talk more about how you can lay out your file so you can get this all in the center and have different layouts as well in a future lecture. So just hold on to that, but this is a good way to get a nice appearance of having a sidebar that's different than your main content. Now you don't always have to have the background be attached to the body element right here. You only need the background attached to the body element if you want the background for the entire web page. So we could attach it just to this main section right here, and I'm going to give this an ID and call it main content, because that's my main content. And then I can use that ID in my CSS sheet right there. So I select it by that ID, and then I can have the background image for that be different. And so I'm just going to do the gray background image that I had before, and then I could see that I just have this background as part of my main section. Now this doesn't look really good with the side columns right here, but that is one option that I can do, is have a background just be part of my web page and not cover all of it. So whatever you select as your background is where it will go. So I could select the header or the navigation bar if I wanted that. Of course, I could select the footer, and I can change the background image of certain areas on my web page. Now another thing that I can do is I can get an image like this, and notice this isn't an image that we'd want repeated across our page as our background, but we can place this image as a background on certain areas of our web page. So I'll show you how to do that. And to do that, I'm going to comment out my styling in my body right here. So I haven't talked about this before, but this is a CSS comment. As /star is how you begin it, a / and then an asterisk, and then asterisk and another / to end it, and that's everything in between will get ignored or will not have any effect. So that's a good way to take out things that you want to temporarily take out while you play with other stuff. It's also a way that you could comment and talk about why you're doing certain styling in your CSS. So once we do that, you can see that all of this stuff has no longer taken effect. So I commented out that stuff, so I can add that background image before. And now I have this wave right here, and it's saved in the same folder as all my other images and the same folder as my images.html. So I'll refresh, and now we get the wave tiled across our web page. Of course, we don't want it tiled, so we'll change the repeat to no repeat. And then we just get one of them. And with just one of them, if you notice, it's gone in the top left corner, but we can use the background position to change the position to maybe the right side of our page instead of the left. And so now the position's right here. Of course, it's going behind this right here. We can just barely see it over there. So maybe we want it to be the top right of our page. So we can add two properties there, and then we get it on the top right, and then we can also do it on the bottom right here, and then it goes down here. Now the reason why it's just in the middle of the page and not all the way down at the bottom of the page is because our height only goes as long as our content. Since our content ends right here, this is the end of our body section right here. So we'll teach you ways in the future where we can extend this body section to go all the way down to the end of the browser, and then that will put this background image down at the bottom. So the best place for this will probably be the top right for now, but if I did want to do the top left right here, then it will go right there. And there is a way that we can move this over so it's not on top of the background image. So that's a good way that we can add little images inside of our web page when we want to. So we'll teach you how to move this over in a future lecture. It's a kind of a long discussion, so we'll leave that for a future lecture, but you can move text over. And now we can also do the top center as well. So center is an option for this. You can do the top center. You can also do the right center, so we can put it here, or the left center, or the bottom center, or you can also do just center, which will put it right in the center. So those are our different options for the background position. So next we'll talk about fav icons, and or favorites icons, and that's this little icon that you see on your browser tabs right here. And also when you bookmark pages, you'll see this little icon with a bookmark. And usually they're the same all throughout the site, so as we click on different pages within the site, we still get the same fav icon. So I recommend that a graphic designer design these fav icons to give your site a really unique fav icon that identifies your site really well. But you can create them yourself, so you can look in the lecture notes for different resources on how to create favorite icons. And I'm just going to snap my fingers and go to a page that has a fav icon editor, and I'm going to create myself a really simple favorite icon. So I use favicongenerator.org to be able to generate this icon. There's several out there. You can just search for one and you'll be found one. And then I just drew this one by picking a color and then drawing it. And I did IT for IT240. And here's my preview of how it will look. So I'm not the best graphic designer, so it'll be harder for me to create a really nice looking favorite icon. Once I'm done, I can click this create favorite icon and just download it. And I'm going to save this file on my desktop, and then I'll snap my fingers to put it on my web page. So to be able to put this in, I just use the link tag on my web page. So I downloaded that favorite icon and I put it in the same directory as my web page. Then I can use this link tag right here and then use the relation with as an icon. Then my href, I saved that as fav icon.ico. ICO is just a different image format to be able to save icons. And then you do a type equals image / x icon, just like that. And if we do that and then we refresh, and we can see that we got our little favorite icon up here. Now this is the preferred way to include favorite icons. An older way used to be just to put this file in your root directory. So if you're on your IS2 or 3 machine, to be able to save this image, you would save it right in your www directory or your public HTML directory, and most browsers will kind of search for that image, search for a fav icon.ico, as long as you name it exactly like this, including capitalization, and then it will find it. But the newer way to do it is to link it in. Now one common question is, if we're doing a style sheet as well, we'd already have a link tag for the style sheet. And it's okay to have more than one link tag in this header, so you just have another one that would say style sheet, and then have your style sheet put in here. So, and you don't need the type for that. So it's okay to have both of them when you're doing an external style sheet. So the last thing we'll talk about is adding images into lists. So I'm going to quickly snap my fingers and add an unordered list to this page. So I've added this unordered list that says first, second, and third, and we can see this on the page. First, second, and third. So with adding images into this, we can change this default marker, this default circle right here to different types, and we can also change it to an image. So to be able to do that, we need to refer to this in CSS. So I'm going to give it a class name, and I'll just call this list special. And now that I have that class name, I can refer to it in my CSS by the class name. And I'm just using a class name to show you how we do classes in CSS, since I already have IDs right there. And so now I have my list and a place to refer to it. And one thing that I can add is the list style type. And by default we get the circle, but one option is none. So if I do list style type none, then the bullets disappear. I can also do a disk, and that's the default. And I can do a circle, and then we get an open circle, and I can do a square as well, and I get that. And I can even add decimal in here if I spell it right. And I get 1, 2, 3, and I can also add upper alpha or upper capital case letters to it like that, and get ABC. So when I do this list style type, I can do several things with that. So I'd usually only do the upper alpha or the numbers or the decimal on this if I have an ordered list. This is an unordered list. But instead of using all of the built-in things, if I want to use my own image, I can use this style image. And when I use this style image right there, then I can specify the URL of an image. So I have searched and downloaded this little circle, green circle image, and that's the image that I want to use for my list. You can either edit one and create one, or you can find a free one on the web and download it. And I named that bead.gif. right there. And so when I do that, then I get this little thing there. Now one thing that you might want to do is have this background be transparent. That way it'll match your background that you have. But then we get little images as our lists. There is one other option that you can do with lists, and that's the list style position. And the list style position decides where the bullet point should go. And there's two options. You can do outside. Outside is the default, so if you like the way it looks, you probably wouldn't add this on, but you'd get outside. And when you do outside, and it doesn't look, like I say, that's the default, so that's what we get. But to really see the effects of this, we need a lot of text here so that it wraps around. So I'm going to snap my fingers to get a lot of text in these. So now I added a lot of text in here, and we can see it's right there. So on the outside, we can see that everything, all these are lined up. And then the other option is inside. And we do the inside, you can see the bullet indents the first line, and the second line goes there. So the list bullet point is on the inside.